Baby boy is murdered after ultra-woke San Francisco District Attorney Chesa Boudin lets his killer go free twice after domestic violence allegations. The story is infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating. We've seen a lot from the left about cashless bail and letting criminals go. And, you know, it's tough. It is. Because I'm absolutely a constitutionalist. You're innocent until proven guilty. I don't like the idea of locking up people simply because they're poor, but we have our limits. And I'll explain this. But first, I'm talking a lot about police resignations. The police have been facing substantial indignity from local elected officials. Ted Wheeler yelling, you must help us get these anarchists. You mean Antifa? Well, he supported them last year, spitting in the face of the officers desperately trying to stop the extremists. The cops are told you must stop them. They say, okay. But then it goes to the district attorneys. These are the ones letting these people go free. Now, Daily Mail says this guy is ultra woke who let this domestic abuser go. I am somebody who is of the opinion you're innocent until proven guilty, but I have a limit. I do not believe these leftist woke district attorneys actually care about the Constitution. Obviously, they don't. What they're doing here is pushing their identitarian ideology. The reason they're saying cashless bail is because they're predominantly trying to get certain individuals based on identity released, or at least that's how it feels. I don't think they actually care about poor people. I think they care about their tribe winning and gaining power, which means if you agree with them, they will give you political favors. And this is where it leaves us. A baby murdered. I mean, it's simple. This DA is like, well, you know, I just couldn't hold him. Apparently, there's special rules. You can hold people when they're accused of domestic abuse. I'm not the biggest fan, right? So listen, if somebody is accused by somebody else, an accusation is not enough. I don't care if it's domestic abuse or bank robbery. We have a right to confront our accusers, and we're innocent until proven guilty. But I also think there are lines. We are not an absolutist society. We recognize, okay, maybe in the event of domestic violence, we're going to say, sorry, buddy, it's going to be, a couple days. Or at the very least, we're going to relocate you somewhere else, put you on an ankle monitor. You got to stay away from your house. It is difficult how you balance freedom with protecting the vulnerable. This is the story we get. Here's the news. A San Francisco man allegedly murdered a 7-month-old baby after the city's scandal-hit district attorney twice failed to charge him with domestic violence. Joseph Williams, 26, was charged over the death of Sincere Williams after the infant arrived at a California Pacific Medical Center showing signs of severe trauma last week. Police admitted Williams, said to have been caring for the baby at the time of the murder, had been arrested twice in separate domestic violence incidents in January and March of this year, but he did not face charges from either incident. DA Boudin claimed they had been unable to book Williams for the assault because the alleged victim, who he was in a relationship with, had not wanted to file charges. I understand that. There was no accused. If the person won't speak up and there's no witness, what do you do? It's tough. I got to admit, it is tough. But California state law considers domestic violence a crime against the state, with campaigners saying it was Boudin's duty to find a way to make a case stick. I'm not a fan of that. I understand the problem we have here, and I don't like these DAs, but we have to balance freedom and security. This is a challenge. I want to believe there should have been a way he could have kept this guy locked up or away. And maybe this once again just falls on police. I honestly just don't know. But the reason I bring this up is that if the police can arrest someone on more than one occasion, why isn't the word of the cop at least enough to hold someone? And if that's true, then maybe it really was the DA's fault. And we have these stories from Portland and other jurisdictions, I mean, all over the country, honestly, where the police do make the arrests, they do give statements, and it's not enough. The DAs cut them loose and say, too bad. And then you get a dead baby. It's messed up stuff. Life isn't easy. Figuring out where we draw the line is not easy, and everyone has different opinions. They say, Boudin's comment angered domestic violence advocates in San Francisco, who say the DA fundamentally misunderstood the nature of family violence cases. Boudin's decision also came under fire from Caitlyn Jenner, who was running to unseat Governor of California, Gavin Newsom, after she claimed the Golden State's prosecutors were being too soft on criminals. That is a fact. I think these cops should resign. I am sick I'm sick of hearing these stories. Just stop already. These psychopaths, these ultra woke DAs who are letting the extremists go, can only keep doing this so long as there are police to enforce this and prop up this system. Now, I understand. Without the police, guess what? It'll get worse. Yeah, people don't want to admit it. Just because you don't call the police all the time doesn't mean there aren't lots of calls to the police all the time. I personally don't call the police all the time, but I have called the police before. We complain about response times, but I assure you, there are many people every single day who have police come in and break up fights and save people from domestic abuse, stop crimes in progress. That's why they have sirens. The problem is there are too many people who don't understand this and are willing to sit back and let the system keep on a churning as babies are now being killed by domestic abusers because the police did what they had to, but the DA did not. And they blame the cops. They blame the police for all of this. I mean, I see these videos. I saw a viral video the other day of, some motorists. It was a black family and they waved down the police. The cops come, they take the baby and they save the baby's life. Baby was choking. I think it was a hairpin. I don't know if you saw that story. And these stories, they go viral sometimes, but there are many people from many media outlets who are invested in just making the police the villains. So when the police are literally the ones who save the mother and the baby from a domestic abuser, and it's the district attorney who doesn't do their job, then what do? Well, listen, I'm of the position right now. I get the cops are going to want to intervene and say, we're going to at least do our best to stop these people and stop this guy. But I think the cops are now just propping up a broken system that allows these people to go free and doesn't do anything. It does not do anything. And it's time to reject this. Now I'll tell you about it. I got some ideas. I do. Let's read a little bit more. They say, she shared a journalist's tweet about the story and captioned it, "This is a horrible," and also, this is Caitlyn Jenner, "also avoidable. Gavin's district attorneys across California are releasing dangerous criminals back onto our streets. Enough is enough." Gavin's district attorneys across California. Oh, so they repeated it. Yeah. Kathy Black, an executive director of La Casa de la Madres, a shelter for domestic violence victims in the city, told the San Francisco Chronicle the failure to charge Williams after either of his previous arrests showed Bowden's complete lack of understanding of family violence. Domestic violence is a crime against the state of California, and the district attorney's job is to work with what the police department had gathered at the crime scene and develop the evidence to present a case. That is correct. I am not blaming the police on this one. I'm actually grateful the police were there to arrest this guy twice. The point I'm bringing up is at a certain point, we need our officers to say enough is enough. The system is broken and we can't do our jobs. And then, I don't know. You don't get the DAs out like just so easily. A lot of people are worried there's going to be a federalization of police. I don't think so. I really don't. There's not enough feds. It won't happen. What needs to happen is a return to personal responsibility. I don't have all the answers. I just know that what's happening right now is broken and it is hobbling just down the road because there are still police doing these things. I get it. A lot of people told me I'm wrong and they said there are cops who don't care about the politics. They're going to save lives. You're right. 100%. Sounds like these cops were doing just that twice, and the DA would not bring charges, and a baby lost his life. A human being died, a baby. And it's because this woke DA doesn't want to enforce anything. Where's the social justice in that? I think it's time we have our cops say, if you will not do our jobs, then why are we here? We're going to protect those that we care about, and we're not going to do it through this broken system. I don't know what the answer is, but I can tell you right now, if I want to defend myself, I have to consider that some of these cops would even arrest me. I live in a place where I have constitutional carry. However, I work often in places where you can't, close to the state line, right? Why do I have to worry about police officers who have no ability to stop a criminal like this, but they do have the ability to stop me from protecting myself and my family? Think about this in California, this domestic violence. What if we just respected the right of people to keep and bear arms? I'm not a big fan of the police department for one simple reason. And this was brought up to me by Michael Malice on my show. He said, I have a right to keep and bear arms. But in New York, a police officer has no problem arresting me and violating the Constitution to enforce unconstitutional law or illegal law or whatever. He's right. He's right. Therein lies the big problem for me. This guy was arrested. It's a good thing from the cop. What's not a good thing? These cops who arrest people for keeping and bearing arms. You can't have it both ways. Right now, we have a half-assed, broken system where the cop can make the arrest and the DEA will do nothing. So I would like these officers to please step out of the way. Allow me to protect myself as the Constitution requires. But now, listen, I'm not saying that, anyone should break any laws. I'm just saying we need the Supreme Court to rule on this. If the police can't do their jobs because the DA's office is broken, then we need to have these states where they say you can't bear arms even though you're constitutionally allowed to back off and allow us to protect ourselves. Well, we've got some news here. Supreme Court to hear major gun case on concealed firearms. The breaking news. It's very simple. They agreed Monday to review a New York law that limits carrying concealed outside of the home, potentially loosening gun laws nationwide in the first major 2A case since 2010. Second Amendment could issue a ruling that allows us to concealed carry across the country without a permit. They should. We should be allowed to do this. And I know a lot of people are saying, but if you do that, then we more criminals and guns. And let me just stop you right there. I am sick of the lies. The police couldn't stop this domestic abuser who murdered a baby. If I was standing in a room and someone was going to kill a baby, I would act in defense of others. And I'm sure you would too. The problem is in places like New York and California, we have police who are willing to do the job to save the baby, but the DA unwilling to do anything about it. It's about time the Supreme Court ruled we can defend ourselves and we restore some of that personal responsibility. And with no respect to officers who would violate my constitutional rights, I will say I have a right to keep and bear arms. But with respect to the officers, and maybe the same people, who would try to save a baby, I understand what you're trying to do. And that's why I say I recognize the difficulties. You want to enforce the law neutrally, but half the people agree and half the people don't. Maybe the Constitution should be your guide. Still, it doesn't change the fact that in these jurisdictions, they are restricting people's rights to keep and bear arms. So I want to highlight this story to prove my point. Retired NYPD cop 30 is shot by stray bullet leaving a Brooklyn party as 15 people are shot across NYC on Saturday as shootings spiral by 77%. This is the first thing I'll tell you right here. This is amazing. A retired NYPD police officer, 30. Retiring at 30 from the NYPD. I wonder why. And he got shot as he was leaving a party in Red Hook, a neighborhood in Brooklyn, around 11:30 p.m. Police sources told the New York Post the unnamed ex-officer 30 was leaving a party in Red Hook when she heard gunshots and realized she had been hit in the stomach by a stray bullet. The shooting is believed to have broken out after a group of men were turned away from the party, which was being held at an event space called The View on top of a Tesla dealership. They got angry and started fighting nearby before the shooting. The New York Daily News reported nobody else was hit by the gunfire, and there have been no arrests. Retired officer in New York. Okay. So when they say, the corporate liberal, neoliberal whatevers are like, you shouldn't have guns. Why? The criminals do. So we can't protect ourselves. Think about what this is. They want to put in power weakened district attorneys. They then want to take your guns away. Okay. I think we're starting to get it. So the cops are going to quit because they're either going to abolish the police, defund the police, or the cops will be demoralized. Then they're going to tell you can't have weapons. Well, you can't have both. You can't. Here's the issue, though. Even if the cops stop showing up, do you think people, law-abiding citizens, will break the law? I don't think so. They'll start to, maybe, in greater numbers. So New York says you can't have guns. Criminals don't care. They'll shoot somebody. They'll shoot a cop in the gut anyway. If the police stop showing up, this 30-year-old who retired, the criminals will still have guns. You'll have no police to help you. And law-abiding citizens probably still won't buy guns. Therein lies the big problem. So what do we do here? I think we're going to need the Supreme Court to intervene. I think we're going to need the Supreme Court to say you have a right to keep and bear arms and you can concealed carry in public without a permit. That would be amazing. And I will mention, the big problem we have when it comes to guns is a lack of personal responsibility. You have people who are shooting irresponsibly. and they need to be held responsible for whatever comes out of that gun. And the same is true for anyone who would defend themselves. In New York City, this cop should have been able to be armed to stop these guys, maybe return fire, but I don't know. It's simple. People are worried that if you have guns and you're in New York, there's too many people. Okay. Then you're responsible for shooting that gun, and maybe you won't want to unless you have no choice. Maybe if people had a right to defend themselves and the cops weren't going around and arresting people for doing so, we'd have less stories like this. Criminals would be less inclined to shoot randomly at people because they know they might get shot themselves. They say an armed society is a polite society. Maybe a domestic abuser would be less inclined to beat a baby to death if the mother was armed and able to protect herself and said, "Stay away from my son." Maybe the problem is that police will arrest you and law-abiding citizens won't break that law. And this just means that criminals will get away with it. And then the left installs these progressive district attorneys and they won't prosecute. We can't have it both ways. So look, this is my opinion has been this for the past several weeks. By all means, abolish the police, fine, whatever. I should have a right to keep and bear arms. And we're getting close to this. And I'm hoping that the Supreme Court's rules we can conceal carry, because then it's fine. Don't care, abolish the cops, whatever. We can now conceal carry. I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to call the police when I have a problem. I'm going to protect myself. You don't want to deal with the legal issues, and you don't want to hurt anybody. That's a fact. Sometimes you have no choice but to deal with legal issues and to hurt somebody if they're going to hurt you. It's a sad reality of life. But ensuring that the police are the only ones who can have guns and that DAs won't prosecute criminals, what are we doing? What's the point of any of it? The police won't stand up for themselves in many instances. Many will. But we got to be able to protect ourselves. The Daily Mail goes on to say, showing a bunch of photos from New York, police said the woman was rushed to Brooklyn Methodist Hospital where she is expected to recover. She left the NYPD in 2019 after 7 years in the job. She just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The former cop was one of 15 people who were shot in 14 incidents in the Big Apple on Saturday, the New York Post reported. Only one person was shot on April 24th, 2020, during the emergence of the pandemic. 77% increase in shootings. And guns are still illegal. So maybe that ain't it. Maybe the cops can't do their jobs anymore. Maybe they're having tactics taken away from them. They can't employ certain maneuvers anymore. So now all they have are guns. They don't want to use those, but the DA won't prosecute anyway. In other places as well. And crime is skyrocketing regardless. So you're going to have to tell me how you want to ban guns and the police at the same time. Because do you want like gangbangers to be going around shooting people? I guess so. And then what happens? More death and more destruction. This is why I've been saying for some time, you need to get out of the cities. That's why other people have been saying the same thing. It's time to get out of the cities. The actual left, the leftists, and the right agree. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. But these corporate neo-lib Democrat types in cities like New York will simultaneously defund the police because it's a fun tribal issue, and then they will take your guns away as well. How stupid is this? You don't want to stick around, man, because it's going to happen again. 3 deputies resign. 7 on leave following fatal police shooting in Elizabeth City, sheriff says. At the time of you're watching this, they probably are already released the body camera footage. We're probably going to see more riots. We're probably going to see far left extremists going around setting buildings on fire, beating people, and we're probably going to see more people die in the aftermath. And the police will arrest you if you want to defend yourself. So that's what I have no sympathy for a lot of these cops, especially right now. I can respect them for the indignity, but I think they should resign for a variety of reasons. We cannot be a nation that sits back while riots are destroying everything and we can't protect ourselves. The only thing you can do right now is get away from these cities. If you don't want to be a criminal and you want to be a law-abiding citizen, then you can't stay because the criminals are getting free reign. Babies are being murdered. DAs won't prosecute. They're cutting people loose, and the cops will arrest you in seconds the moment they see you bearing arms in one of these blue cities. Maybe we'll get some crazy ruling from the Supreme Court and it'll all change. Maybe the police will be completely abolished and people will get out of cities. Maybe this will destabilize and decentralize things. I don't know. I do think it's going to contribute to the potential for a civil war. If the police are gone, they're facing shortages in Baltimore. If no one can enforce gun laws, then you will eventually start seeing conservatives saying, "Screw it, I'm not going to be a target." Many on the left will say, "Screw it, we want a revolution," and the criminals will say, "Screw it, we're going to take guns." And then you're going to see people on the right saying, "I will protect myself." And then the shooting begins. Then, for a lot of reasons, people will start fighting because there's no police force telling everyone to shut up. The only problem now is that the cops seem to, have shown the conservatives they won't defend those who defend the police. They don't care. They don't. They're not getting the job done. I'm worried about what's going to happen next, but I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.